morning, everyone. Miss Susan here for another YA Saturday Spotlight, where I introduce you to a young adult book. This week, we're going to talk about the kind of a sequel to the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series. You know, Jeff Kinney wrote 15 Diary of a Wimpy Kid. So now he's done a little bit of a spin-off with a friend of Greg's, who is Rowley Jefferson. His first story in this new series is Diary of an Awesome Friendly Kid. This is the second book, and it is called Rowley Jefferson's Awesome Family Adventure. The book is written in an interesting style. Rowley is writing a story, and Greg is giving him tips of what to say in the story and what not to say in the story. Now I'm going to read part of a chapter where Rowley is explaining his quest story that he is making up. And of course, his friend Greg is saying, well, don't make the book about Greg and Rowley, so he's going to make it about Garg and Roland. That's how it happens. I was pretty excited to show the book to my best friend Greg Heffley because he likes stories with dragons and wizards and that kind of stuff, and I figured he'd think it was pretty awesome. But I couldn't really tell if he liked it or not because at first he didn't say much. I asked Greg what he thought of the story so far, and he asked me if I wanted his honest opinion or if he should tell me what I wanted to hear. And I said I wanted his honest opinion. But Greg reminded me that the last time I asked for his honest opinion, it got him in trouble. That was the time I showed him my tap dancing routine after taking my first lesson. Greg told me he thought it was terrible and that hurt my feelings. So I told his mom what he said, and she wasn't happy. Greg said that if he told me his honest opinion about my book and it hurt my feelings, I wasn't allowed to go running to his mom. So I said, okay, and we did a pinky swear. After that was settled, Greg told me all the things that were wrong with my story. And boy, he had a lot to say. The first thing he said is that I can't start the book with once upon a time because that's corny and makes it sound like a fairy tale. And that kind of hurt my feelings right away because it's supposed to be a fairy tale. Then Greg said, no offense, but this Roland character has got a lot of problems, and the biggest one is his hair. He said Roland has a mullet, which is the worst type of haircut a person can have. I said the reason Roland's hair is long in the back is so he'll look cool when he does the action stuff. And Greg said maybe Roland can get a haircut at the beginning of chapter 2. Then Greg said, no offense, but Roland kind of seems like a baby, and it's not really believable that a kid at his age would sleep in his parents' bed. And that made me feel a little ashamed because sometimes I sleep in my parents' bed, especially at nights when there's a really bad thunderstorm. Greg taught me a long time ago that if you say, no offense, then the other person isn't allowed to have hurt feelings about what you say after it. But I think that only works with kids because one time I tried it on my dad and he got mad. No offense, but your breath stinks. Greg said the book was going to be too boring if it was only about Roland and that he needed a sidekick. I said maybe Roland could have a best friend who goes with him, and his name could be Greg Heffley. But he told me that everything about his life is copyright Greg Heffley, and if I used his name, I'd have to pay him money. So I decided to make up a different sidekick for Roland because I don't want any trouble with Greg. Greg said he didn't know if he could read a book about a boy who has to rescue his mom because that's a little too weird. So I said maybe I could switch out Roland's mom for a princess, and Roland could rescue her instead. But Greg said nowadays princesses are tough and know how to fight, so they don't need some guy to rescue them. So the book goes on and on with Roland and Garg having their adventures, and Greg keeps coming in and giving his opinion. Back at the end of the book, he breaks in again, and he says, Greg says I'm doing everything right, but now I need to add a little more drama. He said the characters should get into arguments and really go at it with each other because everyone likes watching people fight. I said the reason the teams get along so well is because they're friends and they like each other. But Greg said if everyone's always getting along, then no one's going to care about the characters. Plus, he said this is supposed to be an adventure story that's full of danger, but no one's ever gotten hurt. I reminded Greg that Roland got a blister in chapter 3, But Greg said it wasn't an injury. It was just a first aid kind of a thing. So I said maybe the blister can get infected. But Greg said nobody wants to read a book about Roland's medical issues. He said if I really wanted to make the story exciting, I'd kill off one of my characters. But I didn't like that idea because it would make people sad. He said a good story is supposed to make you feel a whole bunch of different emotions. And if readers just feel sad, I'm doing my job. Then Greg says, always someone dies in a story like this, and I needed to pick a character I didn't really care about. I said I liked all of my characters, and I didn't want any of them to die. But Greg told me if I want to be a real writer, that I'm going to have to start making some tough choices. So that's a little taste of what the Rowley Jefferson Awesome Family Adventure is about. Come to the library and check out this book by Jeff Kinney. Thanks. See you next week.